Hello and welcome to Ewe Sew You. My name's Zoe and this is my channel all about the crafty bits and pieces I get up to. I knit, I sew, I spin on a spindle, I dabble in weaving from time to time and anything else that takes my crafty fancy. But today we're talking about the things I've been working on in June. So grab a brew, put your feet up and let's get started. And to any new viewers, a very warm welcome to you. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, we are looking at what I was working on during the month of June this week. So let's get started with what I am wearing. Just ignore the ready to wear overshirt here. I have on the Summer Secret crop top, which is a Jessie made design. I made it a couple of years ago, I think. I'm a different size now to when I made it, but it is still wearable. It's a little shorter because it's pulled out a bit more. But that's fine. I made this out of a whole selection of leftover sock yarns that I held together to get sort of a mild effect. It does get a fair bit of wear in the not so hot summer days and some spring days, some autumn days, depending on the weather, because I can always layer it. So that's what I'm wearing. The only other thing that's got even a touch of me made to it, I don't really need to show you because I mean, it's sort of a finished object, but it's just a pair of cut-off jeans that I've taken in at the waist and hemmed. I've done that with two, so technically they're my first two finished objects, but you'll have seen cut-off shorts before, so we're not going to worry too much about those. So the other finished objects that I have to show you, let's start with some sewing. Now these have been a little while waiting in the wings to be made. They are a Minerva project. That means that the fabric has been provided to me for free by Minerva in return for me putting a post up on their website. So obviously the link to my profile on the Minerva website will be there. I'm one of the brand ambassadors for, well, part of the brand ambassador program for Minerva, which is how I happen to get fabric from them. So the fabric that I got from Minerva is this Melange ochre sweatshirting. It's fleece backed, so it's cozy and warm. So totally not the sort of fabric I want to be wearing at this time of the year. You will notice that I have some contrast ribbing. And yeah, this is also from Minerva. I bought the ribbing because, as per usual, I didn't read the details of the fabric fully and I didn't have quite enough stretch for the cuffs for this particular project. It's a two-part project. I'm holding here part one. This is the Field Fair joggers. I will put a picture up over here of me wearing these, and they're a nice sort of slimline jogger. There's two options for the waistband, which I've sort of managed kinda to do the one where the elastic and the waistband are the same length, but as you can see there's a little bit of gathering, but that's because it's got elastic in it, so I don't think that's a problem. So yes, you have one length where you gather the waistband into the elastic, and one band where the elastic and the waistband are the same length, then you gather the body of the joggers into the waistband rather than the waistband and the joggers both being gathered. So I went for that option because I'm not a massive fan of elasticated waists. I don't find them all that comfortable. So the elastic in this is essentially just keeping the waistband held up and stopping it from stretching out. It's not tight to my waist. It is the same measurement as my waist. And obviously we've got pockets. So yes, when I say fleece backed, I do mean proper fuzzy. So the idea of this make in particular was I don't have currently any ready to wear lounge around the house type trousers, so I thought a pair of joggers would be good. So I picked out these ones. They are super comfortable. They're just not going to get worn until the weather starts to cool down a bit. So that's those. And to go with them, as I was making joggers, I figured I may as well make a sweatshirt to go with it and effectively make a tracksuit. So this is the Sheridan sweatshirt. Again, I'll put a picture up of me wearing it. The version I did, I chose neckline B, the big balloony bishop sleeves, again with the contrast cuffing, and I didn't have enough of the contrast cuffing to do a waistband in it, which is fine because I actually quite like the hemmed version anyway. So the hemmed version, it sits at a good length with the joggers. I'll put a picture up again of me wearing both together. Now, this was an easy make. I do like it. It is comfortable. However, there are a couple of things that I would do differently if I make it again with these options and this weight of fabric. First of all, the instructions for this neckline, so the raised neckline, have you do the shoulder seams on the sewing machine and not finish them. It's not going to fray. It's a stable knit fabric. It's not going to fray, and there's not going to be sort of ratty edges to it. But that section, there's no reason why you can't do it with your overlocker, so I'm not quite sure why they wanted you to do it with a sewing machine. And then we've got this facing, which is your standard sort of couple of inches wide. It's never quite enough, I find, in the neckbands. But it's also a separate piece to the main body of the sweatshirt. So there's a fair bit of bulk at that point. So I think with this weight of fabric, I would have benefited from cutting the facing and the body of the sweater as one. Because even with understitching, this facing just wants to roll out. So I think if I'd have done it as a self-facing rather than a separate piece, then that would have avoided that, and it would have cut down a bit of bulk because I wouldn't have the seam there. So yeah, so a few changes I'd make, mostly, in fact, all around the neckline. The rest of it is absolutely fine. They're just like little tweaks. They're not that massive wholesale changes. And I think if the fabric wasn't as thick, then I wouldn't be having the same problem with the facing. It certainly wouldn't be as bulky. I think if the facing was a little bit longer as well, it might sit in a bit more nicely, particularly if it was sort of the length of the, almost the length of the shoulder seam, so that you could catch it in when you attach the sleeves maybe. And it is stitched down, stitching the ditch down this seam here to hold it in place. It's still wanting to roll out. It's not so bad when it's on, it's more when it's sort of not on, so just making sure that those facings are laying where you want them once you put it on, and it should be fine. Not that I've worn it for a great deal of time so far because, oh, it's been warm. It's not so bad today. Got actual clouds and breeze today, so it's not so bad today. But we've had some hot weather over the past few weeks, so yeah, it hasn't had a great deal of wear yet. But I am thinking that once it's on, it may not be quite so much of an issue with the facing. And if it is, then I'll just go in and hand stitch the facing down to the interior of the sweatshirt. Okay, so that's sewing finished objects. I do have another sewing project, or in fact another 3 sewing projects lined up. One that I need to adjust the pattern, which is a pair of châtain shorts. One that I need to put the pattern together and cut it out, which is the Shelby romper. And then I still have my Mitchell trousers in cotton fabric, cut out, ready to sew, like they have been for the past few months. Along with a few other projects that have been either partway through or cut out, ready to go, or kitted up or whatever, for a few months. So a bit of life admin's been getting in the way, which is fine, it happens. So yeah, next finished object is a different craft that you haven't seen for ages from me. A little bit of bead weaving. So this is a kit from the bead shop in Nottingham. So we have this satin cord that I've done a slidey knot in. Probably could have shortened the cord before I did it, but never mind. And this is the mandala pendant necklace in the autumn colourway. So it's a nice sparkly bead woven pendant. It uses, so if you remember them all, brick stitch, peyote stitch, there might be something else in there, there might be a herringbone in there somewhere. It does picots. So there's a few different techniques in this necklace. It didn't take long to do, and they're not expensive kits. But yeah, highly recommend if you want to learn bead weaving, getting a kit from somewhere like the bead shop in Nottingham. They do mail order through their website. So yeah, just Google the bead shop Nottingham and they'll come up. I think their website's the bead shop, or Beads by Mail or something. I don't know, there's quite a few beading places around. I just tend to Google bead shop Nottingham and it comes up. So that's my next finished object. It will be getting somewhere, probably with a nice dress or something. It's not the sort of thing I would wear to work, mostly because I generally forget to put jewellery on before I go out for like day-to-day stuff. But if I'm going out for something special, I'll put something on. And the third and final well, so it's fourth and final, really, finished object to show you. I showed you this as a work in progress last month, which is something that I began years ago, and it is the diamond painted kitty in the puddle. If I just hide my face, so hopefully you can see it. I do think it's come out a lot better than I feared. I was a bit worried it was going to pixelate a bit because it is kind of pixel art. But yeah, it seems to have come out all right. Certainly from a distance you get the detail of the picture. Part of the reason why when you're up close it pixelates more is because this is a round drill diamond painting. So the round drills are actually slightly larger than the square drills. So the square drills on the same size canvas can get more detail in than the round drills. I've since discovered since I finished it, so that's why I was having the issues. So I will be getting some square drill kits at some point. I am pleased with this. It will probably get framed up at some point. I need to coat it in Mod Podge first to just make sure that we don't lose any of the diamonds moving it around and what have you. Just going to pop it over here for now. So that's my finished objects, or at least the ones that are worth showing to you, because like I said, you don't really need to see cut off jeans. So let's move on to works in progress, and we do have a few. Let's start with this one. It might be a little bit blurry just because of the setting that I've got on the camera at the moment, but there is a series of videos to go with this project. This is my current weaving project. It's using a variety of different techniques, and the blue is left over from my Sophie's Universe blanket. So I'm going to be using this to make a cushion cover, possibly two, because I can do a second weaving on the back. So I'll either be doing a back to be sewn to this front, or I'll be doing a second front to end up with two cushions, and using like a fabric, like denim or something, to back it. That I'm going to decide when I finish this one and see how much of the blue yarn I have left. So yeah, so that's a work in progress at the moment. I'm working through this techniques video at the moment, so that should be out next week. And there's another 1 or 2 videos after that on techniques before I get the cushion cover finished. I am doing them very much sort of vlog style. Yes, I'm showing you the techniques I'm using, but it's not really tutorials as such. I'm too much of a baby weaver for that. So yes, I'm enjoying that. I am obviously taking my time over it. Again, warm. But the easel that it's on, it's a standard artist's travelling easel thing from the online store that sells everything under the sun. So it was quite affordable. It works like a tripod, and it's actually really handy for weaving on. It's making a lot of difference to my back, particularly when I use the chair that I'm sitting on now, the squeaky dining table chair, rather than my armchair, because I'm a bit more upright there. So that was definitely a good purchase, and I'll also be using it for diamond painting and for art as well. So yeah, definitely well worth the spend if you're into this kind of a thing, and you have a frame loom, or you're doing diamond painting, or you're doing artwork. Save your back some trouble and get a proper easel. This one cost me about 30 quid. So yeah, they're not hugely expensive, and this one packs up really small as well. The only annoyance is because it's a tripod style one, I can't like fold it flat and lean it against a wall when I'm not working on the weaving. So I have to actually take the weaving off the easel, fold it all down and put it in its little carrier and what have you when I'm not using it. Whereas the traditional wooden easels, I'd be able to just sort of fold them together and lean it against a wall. It's a minor niggly annoyance because it just means I have to set it up again every time I get it out, but it's not the end of the world. And for the sake of my back, it's a good one. And yeah, when I'm not using it at all, I can it goes into a bag that's like that long and just stashes away. The bag's got a strap on it, so you can take it out and about with you. So yeah, so that's great. So now after that tangent, let's go back to works in progress and look at the other diamond painting project that I showed you last month. So I have made a bit of progress on this one. There's still a fair bit to go. So I am now about halfway through this diamond painting. It's mostly black under here. So I'm just gonna start at the bottom. I've done some of the beading on that section, So I'm going to get all these black bits done up to here and then finish with a nice fun colour section up there. And so that'll get finished this month at some point. It's not going to take too long because this is not a huge diamond painting project. I am going to be looking to get some bigger ones. Again, with the square drills, this is a round drill one. And I'm also going to be needing to get a bigger board that isn't a clipboard. This is fine for the moment, and it's fine for putting on the easel this way round. I can't put it on the easel that way around because of the clip. Yeah, I suppose I could put it the other way up and have the clip between where the board rests at the bottom of the easel. But if I'm going to be doing bigger projects, either artwork or diamond painting, I'm going to need a bigger board to put them on. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on to some knitting. I've done some knitting. It's a brand new cast on. It's only been cast on a matter of days. But yeah, I'm back to knitting. I'm going with small projects for now to ease myself back into it. And also heat. You don't want to be working on a big blanket or a big jumper when it's hot. So I'm a little bit tangled, but there we go. Right, so these are a pair of socks. I'm using the Silent Night colourway from West Yorkshire Spinners. That's one of their Christmas colourways. I have actually got on there my point minders that my stepmother put in my advent calendar last year, which is gingerbread men, mainly because they are the only needlepoint covers that I have that fit this size of needle and that work for circular needles. I have some for straight needles, for bigger straight needles, that I've acquired over many, many years of people going, here, I don't need these knitting needles, you have them. And ones that I had myself. But yeah, these are the only ones I've got for sock size needles. So yeah, and for circular needles. So I'm working a pair of socks. They're going to be shorty socks. I'm just past the toe. I've literally just finished the toe. They're that earlier cast on. I'm going to be doing kind of like a broken rib waffly type texture. I'm not following a pattern, I'm just busking it. So I'm doing every third, fourth-ish row, because I'm not going to be counting too strictly. I'm going to do one row of rib across the top of the foot, and the rest is going to be stocking stitch, just because I can, really. Heel-wise, I'd like to do the Tunisian crochet heel, which I'm hoping is still a free pattern as I'm mentioning it to you. I already have it from doing Sock Madness a couple of years ago, but the instructions that I have are top down only, and I'm knitting toe up, so I'm going to have a little think and see if I can work out how to make that work for toe up socks. It should work, I just need to work out how to actually get to the point of adding the Tunisian crochet hook, or with the number of stitches there, but a normal crochet hook would be fine. But I need to work out how to get to the point of starting the crochet element for it. I may also change my mind about what sort of heel I want to do by the time I get to the heel, because I've got a fair bit of knitting before I get there. So yeah, so that's living in my Moulin Rouge project bag, which is the appropriate project bag for socks, obviously, as it's got all of these lovely legs all over it. So that's one of my souvenirs from Paris. So yeah, so knitting is back. I'm not going to say it's back with a vengeance. It's obviously the second pair of socks for the year, having redone one pair of shorties earlier in the year. Again, the ones I took to France. So yeah, so it's coming. Small projects. We'll see how we go. We may get on to bigger projects as the weather turns cooler, hopefully, once I've got my muscle memory back from really not having done much in the way of knitting or crochet for months. I am still getting trouble with my joints. The left elbow is definitely one of the worst, left elbow, left wrist. However, I'm thinking part of it is age now, because the right elbow and wrist are also giving me trouble, so just at that stage of life now, I guess, where my joints start to ache randomly. Yay! But yeah, I mean, the left arm's always going to be worse anyway, because that's the arm I injured when I came off a bike years and years ago. So yeah, it's one of those things. The other work in progress that I want to show you is going to look a little bit random. You probably, if you're a regular viewer, you'll have seen something similar to this before. This is a needle felting project. I am obviously very early stages. I am currently felting around a wire armature, or wire and pipe cleaner armature. So I have the head here. I need to bulk out the body quite a lot. We've got the hind legs here. There will be some forearms put on as well. And we have a big massive tail at this end. That might give you a clue as to what it is. I'm actually frantically stabbing with a needle, because that's essentially what needle felting is. It's the stabby craft. It's a lot of fun, quite therapeutic. But I am making, from the same company that I got the kit for Herald Hairdryer, so regular viewers will have seen, and sits in the back of the shot in some of my videos in the craft room. But this is a squirrel kit, a red squirrel. Red squirrels are the native squirrel to the British Isles, under threat from the interloping American invasion of the grey squirrel. The red squirrels are our native breed, and the school I went to fancy boarding school, and we had red squirrels on the grounds. The Isle of Wight has only got red squirrels, there's no grey squirrels there. So there is a thriving red squirrel population there, and there's a red squirrel population in Scotland. But yeah, they are under threat from the grey squirrel. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about today is plans for July. Some of you will be aware that July is Tour de Fleece month. So that's an annual challenge where spinners spin along with the Tour de France. It also gets extended these days, if you want to the Tour de Femme, which follows on from the end of the Tour de France. So that means that's a whole month of spinning. Now, I take part as part of the IVKN Wooligans. IVKN is the International Virtual Knit Nights, of which I've been a part for years. We meet, there's 3 meetings a week, so you can meet whenever you sort of can make it along. And we meet over Zoom, knitting, crocheting, cross-stitching, sewing, weaving, bead weaving, painting, sometimes even studying. So it's a real mixture, and there's people from all over the world that take part. I'll put details down below. But yeah, we were meeting to knit over Zoom way before that was a cool thing to do. So yeah, I mean, OG online knit nighters. So we have a spinning team that takes part in the Tour de Fleece each year, called the IVKN Wooligans. Normally for Tour de Fleece, I'll set myself a target of, I want to spin up these fibres, this weight of these fibres, or this number of skeins. But I'm not doing that this year. Now, you may recall that I received for Christmas a support spindle that I have started spinning on, but I haven't completed the skein on yet. So that's something that I'm setting myself as a goal, is to develop my spinning on the supported spindle. So hopefully there'll be a skein by the end of it, because I've only got, it's not even a mini, maybe 5 or 10 grams on there so far. Not got very far. So that's goal number 1, is develop support spindle spinning skills. So for my birthday, I received an Etsy voucher from my partner. So with that, aside from buying a skein of fibre punk yarn, which I'm not doing, this isn't a haul video, so I'm not going to show that right now. If I remember, I'll put a picture up on screen of it. But I bought this distaff. I can't remember the name of the seller, I'll put that on screen. This is a Spalted Beach handheld distaff. It's about 12 inches long. So I'm going to be using this for Tour de Fleece, along with this spindle, which I got from Niddy Noddy. Now this is a medieval spindle stick. So you actually buy the stick like this. I've opted to go for one with a notched end, as I figured that might be helpful. Hopefully that's going to focus. Okay, so I've got a little notched end in the tip there to hook the yarn under. You can get them with a spiral notch in there, or just plain to spin off the tip. So you buy the medieval spindle stick that is turned to order, so they're made to order, and then you buy the whirls separately. I think this was a 35 gram whirl. Might have been a 36, maybe. Might have been a 28. One of the heavier whirls. And this is a pottery whirl. You can get them out of metal as well. Now, Niddy Noddy, when he makes his whirls for the spindle sticks, he shapes the hole in the middle so that they fit snugly onto the spindles that he turns. So I thought getting the two from the same place was a good idea. And he does have different weights of whirls, so I can buy more to change up the weight of the spindle and therefore potentially spin a wider variety of yarn with the same spindle, just with different whirls. I could probably actually change the weight of the whirl as I'm spinning, as I load up more yarn onto the stick, potentially, to control the consistency. That's maybe worth experimenting with once I've learned how to use it. And I do need to use this with a distaff. You can't use this on its own. It's not like a drop spindle. And it has got a nice little tip at the end, so you could probably use it like a sport spindle, but yeah, it's designed to be used with a distaff. Probably designed to be used with a belt distaff, some of the longer ones that you hook into your belts and walk around with, but they're quite pricey. And harder to come by in the UK. Whereas the hand distaffs, there's a couple of places that do them. So yeah. So that is goal number 2 for Tour de Fleece, is to learn how to use a distaff and a medieval spindle stick. You never know, I might get as far as trying the distaff with the Jalagan as well, but I'm not holding my breath. So yeah, so not so much a weight or a yardage goal, but definitely a skills-based goal. So the aim is to spin every day for July, either on the support spindle or on this combination. So yeah, so I'll let you know how I get on when we come to do the end of July wrap up video. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Obviously, I look forward to seeing you in next week's weaving video, which is this technique here that's kind of blurry in the background for you, just to keep it a little bit under wraps. I mean, you can probably work it out, but hey. So yeah, so in the meantime, whilst you're waiting for that video to come out, and you may well be interested in the one on screen now. In the meantime, happy crafting and bye-bye for now.